sustainable base for agriculture and removal of arsenic from drinking water. Please, next slide. Before that, I would like to give you a brief about sustainable technique. What actually it means when we see a sustainable technique. A technique which should be socially, economically and environmentally sustainable is what we call a sustainable technique. Now, in terms of social sustainability, it must be test-wise, evidence-wise acceptable, simple, user-friendly, convenient and must not have any cultural or religious restriction. In terms of environmental sustainability, it must be eco-friendly and must meet all environmental standards. In terms of economic sustainability, it must have a low cost, initial as well as running, and support local economies and must be self-sustaining. So, the integrated and interlink of all these three gives us a best option of what we call a sustainable technique. Please, next slide. There is an Aboriginal law on land which says, take care of the land and will take care of you. Take what you need from the land, but need what you take. With this, we come to the status of India. Area-wise, we stood at 7th place at the world level, and agriculture area in India is 43% of total, that is 141.23 million hectares. And in fact, agriculture is the backbone of the livelihood security system. It provides livelihood to 64% of the population, and rest of the population depends on agriculture for food. Besides, even 0.1% growth rate ensures adequate food for 10 million more people. So this means we could easily equate agricultural growth with the prosperity of the masses. But a very unfortunate fact is that unsustainable farming practices leads to land degradation. And there is also a UN report that indicates that approximately 23% of agricultural land has been degraded just because of unsustainable practices. Please, next slide. So now let's move to the land degradation status in India. In India, approximately 107 million hectares are under various types of land degradation. And among that, 6.73 million hectares are salt affected, and in that, sodic soil is 3.77 million hectares and saline soil is 2.96 million hectares. And if we would not take this matter seriously, then an estimate indicates that by 2030, about 15.5 million hectare area would be under salt affected. Now, what actually is the sodic soil? Why we are so much concerned about sodic soil? Sodic soil occurs just because of the presence of excessive sodium, and this cations that hinders the crop growth and reduces the productivity. So generally, the reclamating agent which is worldwide we use is a gypsum application. Now, gypsum is again a very unsustainable practice. So for these reasons, we need to have a very strong alternative of gypsum. So please, next slide. So the answer lies, or the solution of that problem lies in the use of a Jatropha. We all are much aware of till now about the Jatropha because of its biodiesel potential, and through transesterification technology, we generally obtain biodiesel from Jatropha. But our research indicates that Jatropha also has the potential to reclaim sodic soil. It reduces ESP, that is exchangeable sodium percentages, and pH, and increases soil organic carbon and exchangeable calcium, and also improves the soil physical property. But it doesn't mean that the challenges has ended here, because by performing this experiment, we come up with a new challenge. Please, next slide. Is to find out the exact time Jatropha would take to reclaim, and is it a permanent solution? And secondly, when we compare gypsum with Jatropha, gypsum is much faster and Jatropha is a slow process. So could we apply here biotechnological aspect of genetic engineering to make the process faster? So could we apply transgenic Jatropha to make this process faster? And if yes, then how far it would be beneficial? So these are the certain challenges still exist in front of us, and we need to find out the answer. Moving to next slide, please. Now, moving to a very next and totally different challenges in front of us is the presence of arsenic in drinking water. Arsenic, as you all must be aware, is a carcinogen, and its presence in drinking water causes 5 types of cancer. And a very well-known disease is the Blackfoot disease. It has created a disaster, a havoc in India in 1983, started with the West Bengal and then spread to other states of India like Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, and we see at the world level then this Bangladesh, Vietnam, Thailand, Argentina, Chile, Cambodia, approximately 70 countries are there which are most affected with arsenic poisoning. And one of the most alarming facts about arsenic poisoning is that it manifests itself over a period of 10 to 20 years. So So once it's recognized by the physician, it's too late to treat the problem. And secondly, its symptoms are very much close to the symptoms of leprosy. So it often leads to a social isolation. Now, it's not that we don't have any technique for the mitigation of asthma. Actually, we have immense technology for the mitigation of asthma. And these technologies are based on, you can see here, on oxidation, precipitation, sorption technique, coagulation, filtration, and membrane technique. But the problem is that these technologies are very unsustainable, as these are either very costly or have some sort of drawbacks, and mostly related with the disposal mechanism. Now, please next slide. In spite of the fact that we have this immense technology, but still we have a problem, a challenge in front of us is to find out a suitable technology from a cheap resource. And secondly, to find out a disposal mechanism. And here, I would like to mention you all about one Granger Prize that was announced in the year of 2002-2003, probably I don't remember the right year, but that was basically carry a $1 million prize. And that was announced for the development of low-cost, effective, sustainable remedial technique for the mitigation of asthma from drinking water. And after that announcement, various technologies were emerged based on adsorption method. And one of the most promising technology was the use of water hyacinth. Please next slide. See, use of dried water hyacinth, or we say it's a very common way if I say there's a DHR technique, that is dried hyacinth root. It shows that it has a potential to mitigate arsenic from drinking water, although it's a very novice technique. Please, next slide. Now, what actually is a DHR and how it works? DHR is basically a dried hyacinth root, and in a powder form, it is mixed with the arsenic water for 30 minutes and then it is filtered. And reports indicate that it removes 95% of arsenic from water and it reduces it below 0.01 ppm. This 0.01 ppm is a standard set up by EPA, that is Environmental Protection Agency, and WHO, that is World Health Organization. So, the advantage of this technique is that it's a very promising technology, but the limitation is that it is underdeveloped. Please next slide. Here you can see the names of scientists and researchers who had worked on DHR, that is dried hyacinth root, not only for arsenic but also for the heroin bottles. Please next. So today I have discussed with all of you on two important emerging challenges. One is the sodic gland reclamation, another is the arsenic mitigation from drinking water. And we also tried to explore a solution which is just a tip of an iceberg, and we need a very extensive work and extensive research to achieve our targets. So hoping that probably in future we could have a permanent solution for these problems. So with this good hope, I would like to say thanks to all of you for your kind attention. Thank you.